Hey folks, Corey here with Fist and Stone Wargaming. Welcome to the Stone Path. In this video, I'm going to stick with the topic of bases, but we're going to take a trip to the Blackstone Fortress. To get started on these bases, here's a look at what I'll be using today. Texture paint, Astrogranite, shade of Nuln Oil, 2 paints for dry brushing, Mechanicus Standard Grey and Administratum Grey, and of course Abaddon Black to paint the rim of the base. Just a couple of brushes and the texture tool. Pretty straightforward, pretty simple. To get set up, I unscrew the top from the Citadel paint handle. I then grab some blue tack or poster tack and secure the model down onto that. This gives me an unobstructed access to the entire rim of the base of the miniature. Now we're ready to start working on the model, and we're going to start with some Abaddon Black. So the first step with these bases is to actually paint the first coat on the rim and just over the edge of the top of the base with the black paint. Doing this gives you that first coat down on the rim, but also gives you kind of an undercoat on the base which has been painted white. By doing this before putting the texture paint on, we're able to avoid having any white spots left under the texture paint right at the edge of the base. And with the rim of the base done, it's time to move on to the texture paint of Astrogranite. Important here to use just the Astrogranite and not the Astrogranite debris, because the Astrogranite provides a smoother finish. Going to use the wide end of the texture tool here, get a bunch of the texture paint on, and start spreading it onto the base of the miniature. These particular miniatures don't have a lot of detail on the bottom, but when you get close to that detail, you do want to use the thin end of the texture tool. That way you can make sure not to get any of the texture paint onto the model itself that you just finished painting. At this stage, if you wanted to add some embellishments to the base, like the skulls here on Pius, or the rocks on UR025, this would be the place to do that. You could check out my video on the Ashen Waste base to see how I add these embellishments. Once we've finished covering the entire base, with the exception of the little detail that this particular model has along the center line, we're going to leave the base to dry, probably about 45 minutes to an hour. Once the base is dried, time to go to the shade step. I'm going to use Nuln Oil wash here, using that small base brush again. You're going to want to put a very generous helping of shade all across the base here. Let a shade really flow into the nooks and crannies that the texture paint has created. It won't be as much here as if you had used, say, the Astrogranite debris texture paint, which has a little bit more finer, rougher texture to it. The Astrogranite gives a smoother look, which in my opinion is better for a structure such as the Blackstone Fortress. Once the shade is completely applied, you need to leave it for about 30 to 45 minutes until it dries. Once dry, we're going to move on to the dry brush step. First up is the mid-tone gray, Mechanicus Standard Grey, and that's really to restore the mid-tone of the surface of the base. Created a good shadow now. Now we're going to try to build up kind of the mid-tone in the base layer. By using the dry brushing technique, we can control how much paint gets onto the surface of the base and slowly build up to the color we want and the tone that we want by adding successive passes. Have a little bit of patience with this, but it still shouldn't take you all that long, and after a couple of models, you should be able to get the hang of it. And here you can see the difference between the model on the left, which has been dry brushed, and the model on the right, which is still yet to be done. The next step is to go to Administratum Grey to bring out the final highlight on the base. Again, start with light passes to bring the color up to the desired level of brightness. Here we're trying to hit the higher points of the base to a little bit of highlight. You want to leave some of that mid-tone behind the Mechanicus Standard Grey. So you get a 3-tone gradient from the shaded area to the mid-tone to the highlight. And here's another side-by-side look. The Administratum Grey step is done on the left, and the model on the right has just had the Mechanicus Standard Grey step done. You see how much more the detail pops after the second dry brush layer. And then the final step is to go back to the Abaddon Black with a nice thin coat around the rim of the base, just to clean it up and give a nice solid finish. And here's the base complete. And lastly, here's a look at the model on the Blackstone Fortress tiles. The gray tones aren't all that exciting, but they provide a nice neutral background for your model that fits in well with any of the tiles from the Blackstone Fortress set. If you're curious at all about the spindle drone, stay tuned for the next video. Well, I hope there was something in that video that you found useful for your future hobby projects. If you enjoyed it, please give it a like down below. Also, please subscribe. Click the little bell icon for notifications on future videos that I post. If you're interested in checking out some more videos right now, click on one of the links that's on the screen. Thank you for watching. We'll see you next time on The Stone Path.